Vajradara Sumatimo Nishasane Karm Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumatimo Nishasane Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumatimo Nishasane Kan Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumatimo Nishasane Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Bhakyuke Akudhangayandagi Loya Bhakyuke Sundang Dakiyanga Bhakyuke Tudang Dagi Yiyateyerme Chiktu Chingiyolo Bhakyuke Kudang Dhagilu Bhakyuke Sundandagingam Bhakyuke Tudang Dhagiyi Töyerme Chiktu Chingilo Makyuke Ku Dhagilu Makyuke Sundandaginga Makyuke Tudang Dhagiyi Töyerme Chiktu Chingiyolo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Sashipuki Choshimeto Chamari Rabalingashi Nide Gempadi Sange Shinto Mikte Ulwarki Drokunanamda Shingla Chöpar Shoyedam Guru Ratna Mindra Nirala Kam Niryata Yami Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Shu Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Sho.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo yalhaye keda ludanjike drubundandami kenamda. Drowa kuinge dranam chi tsampa thamche ketu dagi cheten. Buongiorno.
Good morning. Sometimes it happens maybe that we have thoughts that we don't like, or feelings, or thoughts that are contradictory to other thoughts that we have. And we want to take one decision, but there's a part of us that keeps on talking within because of this, that, the other. I mean, how can we silence that other contradictory thought? One of the first things to do is to listen to it. I don't know if it's ever happened to have something that you really need to say and no one wants to listen, and the more you're not in, maybe somebody wants to tell you something and you don't want to hear it, and the more you're indifferent to it, the more that person wants to tell you. But as soon as you listen, then you can decide what you want to do with that information, and then that person is calm. So it's important to know how to accept that we have incoherences within us. We're made up of incoherences. It's difficult to find someone that doesn't have them. And first of all, they should be listened to. And it doesn't mean that you need to follow, but if at that first moment you listen and you say, okay, I have this feeling, because somewhere there's a need, there's a habit, there's a memory, there's something that takes me there. And so instead of refusing it, instead of going against it, of blocking it and negating it, first of all, we listen. And I accept, and once I've listened, then I can choose where I want to put my energy, which direction I want to go. But there's that first phase of listening. I say this because yesterday we started from the first text that says, put aside all doubt and hesitation and take delight in earnest practice, or put effort into the path that you choose. And we talked about what we want and what direction we want to go, but sometimes we want more than one thing. I want this, but I also want that. And we put two main directions in front of us. This desire for the world to correspond to the way I think it should be, related to person, places, and things. I want this person to act like this, that situation to act like this. We have our idea of how we want things to go. And then probably we also want to have the clarity, the strength, the awareness to face the situations in a balanced way. We want both. But the reality is, as we saw from that book, the road of man, the path of man, if I put one objective within and one outside, then I've lost that opportunity to change myself, because the one from outside is much stronger. But we need to listen, say, yes, I want this. I wish that person were like this, that, in this different way. Personally, I've had an experience that there's a certain type of dynamics, a certain situation that I didn't like. So this dynamic just kept repeating itself. First, I lived it in one context, and then it was quite difficult to get out of it. I'm able to get out of the situation. I took a deep breath, thank goodness. I turn the corner and there's the same situation again, with a different form, a different color, a different name. But I'm back to the beginning, and then I put in all the effort to get out of the situation. I'm able to change the situation to get out of it. Oh, thank goodness. And I turn the corner and there it is again. Another name, another form, etc., etc. And at that point, luckily, I looked at myself sincerely, and I said, the problem is not the situation. Until I learn how to live it differently, it's going to keep appearing in my life. And in the lives of all of us, we have situations that are repetitive. Those who feel abandoned, people who feel like they don't have anyone to trust, or someone who's always in conflict. Everyone has their own story that repeats itself. And there I said, I need to face this situation differently from how I have in the past. So the first point is to stop running away and stop wanting it to be just different, but put effort and emphasis into how I face the situation. And in my case, it wasn't so easy. It's a gradual process. It doesn't come from one day to the next. One day you have more strength, another day you have less. But what's beautiful is this is my own experience, the more you're able to change the way you face situations, the more that situation actually changes. And makes me smile a little bit, but you know, so and once that you've learned how to face that situation, that's the day it actually changes. But it's important to recognize, oh, I would like it to be different, but this is an illusion because it doesn't resolve the issue. So I see that that wish is there, but I'm going to put energy into how I face the situation. And here, what we saw yesterday, just to pick it up quickly, it's this kind of clash, a kind of conflict between two paradigms. There's a very widespread paradigm that I call the paradigm of the material utopia. And then there's what I like to call the spiritual utopia. The material utopia is the idea that I can find a state of well-being, happiness, and peace, mostly given external factors. From my body to the person who's next to me, work, my economic situation, my surroundings. The day that this will be like this and that is like this and I can have this and I'm free from that other thing, then everything will be fine. But the reality is that this just doesn't happen. The spiritual utopia, instead, we say, I will be able to have a state of satisfaction, peace, and happiness once I have an ability to be stable, once I have love for myself, love for others, awareness, coherence, wisdom, so coherence with how I relate to myself and phenomenon, generosity. Once I have the inner resources to live any situation well, at that point I will be fine. And these are two paradigms that are completely different. Our society, I don't know since when, I mean, which paradigm does our society follow? The materialistic one. And then there's also, we can see that within the material utopia, there are two ideas. One that says, in this life, if you earn enough money, if you find your Prince Charming, or your princess, or the job that you are passionate about, and enough money, then you can be happy. You can reach your nirvana, this state free from suffering. And then there are those who say instead, okay, forget this life, it's just not possible. But if you are good, after death, you can have everything you want. If you're good now, after you die, you'll have everything that you want. You'll be free from everything that you don't want, and it'll last forever. When heaven is described in many different religions, this is not a criticism of any specific religion. I've seen this also within some Buddhist ideas. Is heaven an inner state of being, or is it described, are the outer conditions described, the outside? In Buddhism, there is the idea of a pure land, which is different than a heaven. A pure land is a place where most of the people who live there have an evolved, developed spiritual level. So imagine being someone where the taxi driver is made of of love and wisdom. The barman is like, like Lama Ganchen. Imagine Lama Ganchen everywhere. So most of the people that you meet have those developed qualities, and that helps. So that's the idea of pure land. But generally speaking, heaven is somewhere where we can have everything that we want. We're free from everything we don't want, and it lasts forever. It's also for this reason that culturally, depending on the culture and the time, heaven is described differently. Today, I'm sure if we were to rewrite the description of heaven, and we want to encourage young people of the importance of heaven, they'll want, fast internet. Because otherwise, you go to heaven and there's no social media, there's no internet, there are no video games. But who would want that?
Okay? Però fatto sta che questa
But this view is still a view within the material utopia. Spiritual utopia. Remember that nirvana is not specific to Buddhism. It's also a musical group, but nirvana makes reference to the state beyond suffering. The material utopia believes in nirvana, doesn't it? The day that I'll have power and fame and money, I will go beyond my suffering, won't I? Nirvana is something that we all, regardless of our paradigm, it's something we believe in. But there are different ideas about what nirvana is and how to get there. So within Buddhism, nirvana is an inner state of being where one is free from that which generates suffering. One has no more anger, sadness, arrogance, fear, miserliness, he has instability, obsession with when one is no longer self-obsessed. One has generated all the positive qualities: love and compassion, altruism, wisdom, coherence, concentration, inner stability, generosity. This is the idea of nirvana within Buddhism. So it's important for us to see, and when we ask ourselves what we want, see that to get from one extreme to another, in the middle, there are many other steps. I mean, between black and white, there are all those different shades of gray. And we shouldn't expect to go from 0 to 100. We need to understand, if I see that what I want, so I have 99% material utopia and 1% spiritual utopia. Okay, so we want 1 to be 1.5 until it becomes 2%, and then 3%. I accept that 99% of my desire is based on a material utopia. I accept that both are present, but little by little, I put energy into what I want, which is the spiritual utopia. But you can't have them. You can't have both. Sometimes I've seen that we can develop a kind of, how can I say, not a sense of guilt, but a kind of expectation towards ourselves that we should already be there. Like when we see that there's a road and we want to see where we want to be, somehow there's this expectation that we should already be there. I don't know where that exactly comes from. Like maybe a little bit like saying, when we recognize that we have our various mental defilements, and sometimes that comes together with a sense of guilt, thinking I shouldn't be like this. I don't know why. I mean, we are the way we are based on this very complex interdependence of factors. So the question is, what am I doing now to become what I want to become? So it's very important to start from accepting myself with love, with what I am, and I direct myself towards what I want. So we shouldn't go against our worldview. Instead, we should cultivate a healthier worldview that naturally one takes away the other. The more energy I put into the light, then naturally the less darkness I will have. Then we go to the second, the third and the fourth, the second verse. So it says with, it says abandon entirely lethargy, dullness, and laziness, and exert yourself constantly with enthusiasm. Sorry, this is the third and fourth line. It's a little bit like that expression from Kunden Jampelyang. Chegu chege sam.
Aka samni nishu song tetar ngangne longor trukchu long mise tongpa sebe namdaring.
Which could be translated as something like thinking about doing, 20 years have gone by. I wasn't able, 20 years have gone by. Oh, why didn't I do? Another 20 years went by. So 60 years have gone by, and this is the biography of an empty life. What happens is when we see something and we say, oh, it would be so wonderful if I would really like to be like this. I would love to do that or develop this characteristic or that one, whatever it is. What we need to do next, we need to walk in that direction. The steps are small. There's a proverb that says to realize something important, there's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. But that 1% is fundamental, because if I don't know where to go, then I can work hard, just going round and round without getting anywhere. This reminds me of something. A few years ago, now it's been quite some years, I was in China together with my mother, who had to have surgery, and for various reasons, and I'm not going to explain. Anyway, we were when we were traveling with Lama Ganshin, she spoke to a friend, and with Lama Ganshin, she decided to have her surgery there. Everything went fine, but as we were waiting for results, between visits and hospital visits, so we had a week, and we didn't have much to do. Sometimes we go to the hospital, sometimes we didn't have anything to do. We were in a nice place, a nice house, and it was the first time for me in at least 20 years that I had a week where I chose not to do anything. So I'd get up in the morning. I remember I didn't have anything specific to do, and I realized something that I wasn't expecting. When you wake up in the morning and you have a lot to do, at the end of the day, you're tired, right? And when you wake up in the morning and you don't do anything all day, at the end of the day, you're tired. And I said to myself, why is that? So I never again can I say, oh, I'm tired because I did so much. That's not true. I'm tired because I wake up in the morning and my system, little by little, lives and uses up energy. And someone once said that when we're not doing anything, often we get even more tired, because even just thinking uses up a lot of energy. Our organs, what are the two parts of our body, or two organs that use up the most energy? The brain and our digestive system. So that's why it's difficult to think when we're digesting. The energy should be there in our gut. So what happens is when we maybe we're we're not doing much, and then we have many thoughts that uses up a tremendous amount of energy, and we're exhausted. But that experience, I mean, I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just spending my time, and at the end of the day, I was tired, and I said to myself, in life, do what you do, but at the end of the day, whatever you do, you're going to get tired. It's part of life to work hard and to be tired. And I asked myself, childhood, is it tiresome? Looking from the eyes of an adult, we would say no. But a small child, all the things he needs to learn, when you're learning how to relate to the world, it's who you are, it's not easy. Even no matter how beautiful it seems, it's one needs to work hard. What about adolescence? Is that tiresome? What about post-adolescence? This like pre-teens or um, no, after adolescence, when you're a young adult, what should I study? What kind of job should I do? Should I get married? That's hard. What about adulthood? Now I'm married, I have my career. How can I, raise children? This is hard too. And the next phase, where one starts to get older and starts to feel in the body and the mind one's fatigue and starts thinking about retirement, doesn't know what to do. I mean, getting old is tiresome, isn't it? And dying? I don't remember. I imagine also like being born is difficult, is tiresome. So so hard work or working hard is part of living. There's nothing wrong with it. What's problematic is working hard for something useless, working hard for something that is actually even detrimental to us. Using up energy is part of our lives. We're constantly in this cycle of getting energy, using up energy, getting energy, using up energy. We use our energy, we get our energy from oxygen, from food, from water. I was the greatest source of energy is oxygen. So we see how important breathing well is. So when we have an objective, as we walk in that direction, we will encounter difficulties as we go, many. There will be moments when it's not natural or spontaneous to do those kinds of things, sure. Because we want to do something that we're not used to, something that is not yet a habit. And changing habits is difficult. But we shouldn't be afraid. We shouldn't be afraid of getting tired, because if it's not for one thing, it'll be for something else. It's part of life. So here where it says in Tibetan, it says ni muk lelo. We have these three things. So it's this attachment to sleep, actually, is mukpa is this is here it's translated as lethargy. It's mental so lethargy, and then mukpa is this dullness, and lelo is laziness. So this attachment to sleep, lethargy. I mean, sleep is important. Sleeping well is very important. Let me give you an example. Yesterday we talked about this. In many spiritual traditions, since a long time, it's said that within the 24 hours, the best time to come into contact with oneself, to meditate, to have more mental clarity, For when is that process? 2 hours before dawn, more or less. This pre-dawn. When that light starts to come out. I don't know if you ever realize, I mean, the birds start singing even before the sun comes out. It's where that darkness of the night ends and the day is dawning, is coming. And in the Vedic text, it says that that's the time where the energy is flowing in the central channel, and there's a balance between the left and the right channel, and that brings that naturally brings to a moment of balance. I mean, that would be shouldn't we take advantage of that? But for us, waking up early, what does that mean for us? It looks like something very, very difficult and tiresome, and not pleasurable. And why? Because we have electricity and we don't go to sleep with the setting of the sun. Instead, if you went to sleep at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, at 5 o'clock you'd be awake. 4 or 5 o'clock you'd be awake. So it's a question of habit. But what I mean to say is, sleep in this case, this attachment to sleep, or not having a balanced sleep, that generates a tremendous amount of problems. So sleeping well, having a good sleep cycle is incredibly important, and not being attached to sleep, but to sleep well so that you can regenerate your energy. And here, actually, let me just a quick side note. Before talking about any aspect of spiritual practice, we should be able to do 3 things well. We should be able to sleep well, eat well, and excuse my expression, but poop well. And let's add also to move. Because when the basic conditions, the basic functions don't work well, then everything else is harder. So my question, am I able to sleep well? Yes. Okay, great. I'm not able to sleep well. I sleep deeply, but do I sleep deeply and in the morning I feel recharged? No, I don't. Well, then it should be seen, it should be evaluated seriously. It's something serious. The other aspect is about food. How do I eat? Do I eat what I like, or do I eat what I need? How much do I eat? Do I need what I need, or do I eat what I want? For example, many antique medical traditions like the Tibetan Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, or Ayurvedic medicine, Tibetan medicine clearly says when you eat a meal, should always eat. So you divide your stomach into 4 parts. 2/4 of food, 1/4 of liquid, and 1/4 empty. So you should always end a meal being able to eat more if you wanted, but not eating the maximum amount, because that actually takes up even more energy. If we eat too much, then it actually uses up even more energy instead of giving us energy. And even putting in bad food is like putting in the wrong type of fuel into our body. So when we eat, it's one of the greatest challenges that we have in our daily life. It really is a challenge. One of the first challenges along our spiritual path, which is this challenge to cultivate what is good for us, but that we don't like. and abandon what is bad for us, but that we do like. In other words, give value, give priority to what's good for us and not what we like. And then if things that are good for us we also like, that's even better. But the challenge isn't about abandoning what we don't like and is bad for us. We do that naturally, or trying to cultivate what we like that's good for us. No, the challenge is abandoning what we like but that's bad for us and cultivating what's good for us that we don't like. And in our inner scale, we need to give priority to our well-being and not to our pleasures. Nothing against pleasures. It's just that when you put them on, you put health and the pleasure and well-being on the scale, our well-being is worth more than our pleasures. So our own reflections, we should think about how we sleep, how we eat, how we move, how we exercise, our digestive system, how is it working? If our digestive system is not working, there's something not going right. For me personally, my weakest point is my digestive system, and I'm working hard at it, and I'm doing different things. And of course, when you have a chronic problem, it takes longer to fix. But we need to have our basic functions working well. That's where we need to start. We need to exercise. You can find different ways, taking walks, like doing yoga, so that our body is well. It's important. Otherwise, we sit down to meditate. Oh, it hurts here. I feel tired here, and I've got this, that, and the other, and the energy is focused there, and not on my meditation. So first of all, we abandon this attachment to sleep. Sleep well, but not excessively. From my own experience, for example, I don't know how it is for you, but when I wake up in the morning, there's a moment where I wake up, usually before the alarm, and I wake up by myself automatically. If I wake up then, if I get out of bed then, I have enough energy. Instead, if I open an eye and I see that it's too early, and I like sleeping, and I go back to sleep, and I'm capable of sleeping for hours and hours, regardless of how many hours I stay in bed. The longer I stay in bed, the worse it is for me, the more tired I am, as if I became overcharged at a certain point. The energy is full, and then if you don't get up, then you start using up the energy that you've gained. It makes I don't know what the theory is. I'm just talking about my own personal experience. It's counterproductive. So we should know ourselves well and take care. And on the other side, we should do what we can to have a clear mind. And this has to do also with what we eat, how we eat, what we drink. Once a friend said, oh, I was very happy she came. Lama, it's the first time in my whole life, basically, since she was an adolescent, that I spend a week without drinking any alcohol. And I didn't imagine, but my mind is much clearer. I said, it's obvious. And she said, no, because it wasn't that I was getting drunk. I would just have a glass or two here and there. But my level of mental clarity without drinking for a week is totally different. Oh, it's almost as if I had never had such clarity before. So keeping mental clarity is very, very important. And this has to do also with what I eat, what I drink, what I do. I see in the there's our dear Dr. And Fossi here, and I don't know when she will have her conference. We can also talk about, we can ask her for some advice. Yeah, I'm the worst person to talk about these things because I don't have the knowledge. But the point is, we need to give importance to this. Take care. Someone could say, no, Lama, I like deeper things, high tantra, philosophy. Okay, good. But to do that well, first you need to be able to sleep well, eat well, and poop well, and move well. Because if these things don't work well, then you don't have the energy or clarity, or it'd be very difficult. And one of life's challenges is living a healthy lifestyle. And everything's connected. So keep your objective clearly. Put energy into what you believe. Abandon this attachment to sleep, this mental dullness and laziness. There are 4 types of laziness. The first laziness. Sorry, there's a question.
L'attaccamento al sono è molto semplice. Per esempio,
Attachment to sleep is very easy. For example, like the example I gave myself, you wake up in the morning. So I wake up naturally. Maybe my alarm's set for 6, but then I wake up naturally at 5. And then I see it's 5. I said, I'm not going to get up at 5 because I like sleeping. And so what happens? I stay in bed to be able to sleep a little bit more. So the attachment to sleep, because it's pleasurable to sleep. And so what happens is one keeps on sleeping and sleeps longer, not because one needs to regenerate one's own energy, but because they like sleeping. And if we look at older cultures in the East, certainly, and also in the West, I think, sleeping late in the past was very badly seen. Once I was in India, there was one day as a young boy, it was always very, very hard for me to wake up, to get up. Up until just a few years ago, until about 10 years ago, I would go to sleep around 2 a.m. and in the morning I wanted to sleep. And when I was in India, it was the opposite because at 5 o'clock in the morning I needed to get up, 5:30. And one day it was my day off, let's say. And I said to myself, oh, tomorrow I'm going to sleep. How wonderful. And at a certain point I was sleeping. I hear the door. Someone knocking at the door. It was Ken Lakpala, and he said, "Get up! It's late. It's 11 o'clock." And I thought, "Oh, how shameful! How shameful! Sleeping until 11." I got up quickly. I opened the door, where in front of the door there was a kind of living room with a clock on the wall, and it was 7 in the morning, and he had been up since 3. So what happens is sleeping, at least for me, sleeping was pleasurable. But in all older traditions, not just in the East, sleeping late in the morning wasn't positively seen, because the early morning is the best time of the day. To work, to study. Your energy you're full. Your energy is increasing from dawn to noon. It's when the energy is going up. It's the moment to create, and also to meditate. In the Tantra of Guhya Samadra, it's explained that it's not possible to reach enlightenment if not in those 2 hours before dawn. And someone can say, no, I meditate better in the afternoon. Sorry for you, no enlightenment. I'm simplifying things. But what happens is this attachment to to sleep because it's pleasurable to sleep. And we have this problem that we're not able to have a balanced sleep cycle. We sleep badly. We try to sleep more, and we've lost often this harmony with this cycle of nature. And this is something that is bad for us. The healthiest of things would be I wake up before dawn, I go to sleep a little bit after sunset. This would be the healthiest of things. Let's get back to laziness. So there are 4 types of laziness. The first laziness is, let's call it just pure laziness, where you don't want to do that. You say to yourself, I know it would be good to do this. It would be great. It would be good to wake up earlier and do a half an hour of meditation. That would be good for me, but I don't want to. I don't feel like it. It's a declared laziness. That's the first type of laziness. It's the most sincere of the lazinesses. Then we have the second type of laziness. Oh, where you say, oh, it would be very important, but now I can't. I postpone. I procrastinate. I say, yes, I need to do it. I want to do it. I will do it, just not now. I could do it now, but actually I don't want to, so I postpone it. The third type of laziness, yes, it's extremely important, but I can't. I can't now. It's not that I don't want to and I'll do it later. No, I just can't. I need to do something useless instead of something useful. In the evening, I know it would, in my program, it would be good to study something or meditate or do some yoga, but to now there's the last episode of that show, or actually the reality is I don't want to do it. So I find something useless to do to not do that important thing. I remember once I was in India and I said to myself that I wanted to do the long sadhana of Yamantaka, to do it well. And during the week, I would get up early. I had studies, so I would do the short sadhana of Yamantaka. And on my free day, I said, I'll do the long sadhana of Yamantaka. So on my free day, I got up. Okay, it's time for the long sadhana, but first I need to take a shower. Take a shower, okay. Now I'm a little hungry. Now I'm gonna have breakfast. In my whole adolescence, I never had breakfast, but that morning I had breakfast. I finished breakfast and I looked at the kitchen. I said, "Oh, the kitchen's really dirty. Let me clean the kitchen." I didn't clean the kitchen the whole week, but I cleaned it that day. But now it's lunchtime. Oh, okay, so now I have lunch, and after lunch I'm sleepy, so I took a nap, and then the whole day went by, and I was tired. So I created a whole program of useless things to do, things that I didn't need to do because I didn't want to, but you don't have the courage to tell yourself, no, I don't want to, because there's a part of yourself says that it would be right to do it. So you create excuses. This is the third type of laziness. The fourth type of laziness, which is the worst, it's in crescendo. It says, I would like to do this, but I'm just not able. I would like to meditate for 3 hours, a single pointed meditation, but I'm just not able. I can't start with 5 minutes. Instead, we push ourselves down. We tell ourselves that we can't do anything, and so we Daniela Nebe Lelo, which is this laziness of putting ourselves down. We rest in our own inabilities. So since I'm not able to run 10 kilometers, I'm not even going to run 100 meters, when actually if I can do what I'm able to do, little by little, I can get better and do more. What's the definition of laziness? I've invented this. You can say it's right or wrong. So for me, the definition of laziness is is a state where we have the combination of two factors. It's the combination of the certainty of the importance of doing something united to the lack of desire to do that same thing. So laziness is, I know that I should, it would be good to do, it would be right, good, nice to do, but actually I just don't want to. So when they told me, abandon laziness, I said, thank you. Well, how can you develop effort and abandon laziness, as it's said here in the book, where it says, when exert yourself constantly with enthusiasm, because they say that the antidote to laziness is effort. To tell a lazy person that they need to put effort, does that work? No. So really, what do we do? How can we do? For me, it was an important key. It was a real turning point when I studied the what's called the 51 mental factors. And one of the mental factors is called effort. And in the description says, effort is putting energy that is good but not easy. Because if you like chocolate, do you need to put effort into eating chocolate? No. Effort is when you put energy into something that you know is good but doesn't come to you spontaneously to do it. It's not necessarily tiresome, but you need to put energy in it. So enthusiastic effort, this energy, putting effort into something virtuous and good, but that is not necessarily easy. It depends on the aspiration, or in other words, on our desire, our wish, our wishing. In other words, I don't put energy into things that I don't want. So if I don't put energy into something, it's because actually I don't want that thing. It's not a priority for me. I want what I believe. And traditionally, it's described as, it says that enthusiastic effort depends on aspiration, and aspiration depends on faith. Let me give you an example. Traditionally, it's described like that. To be ready to walk for hours under the hot sun to get water, first of all, I need to desire a wish for water. To desire water, I need to believe that it's possible to find water. I need to believe that water exists. I need to believe that water can eliminate my thirst and that it's good for me for all the reasons that we know. And when I believe not only in water, but when I believe that I can find water, at that point I desire it, and then I can put effort into finding it, into getting it. Because faith, the definition of faith is believing in the existence and the potential and the characteristics of something. I believe that water exists. I believe that water is pure, fresh, etc. I believe that water has the function of taking away our thirst. I feel thirsty. I believe in water. I want water. I'll put water. I believe in water. I want water, and I'll put effort into getting water. And this starts from a very simple principle, which is nobody puts effort into something that they don't want. And when we recognize that we're not putting energy in one direction or another, it's because deeply we don't want it. How can we develop desire for something? By knowing it and developing faith in its qualities. A mechanism that uses the same inner dynamics is advertising. Imagine that you develop a product and you want to sell your product. Otherwise, why did you make it? You made a product, you want to sell your product. how can you make sure, encourage people to buy your product? You you want people, before they can want your product, they need to know it. They need to know it before they can buy it, before they can want it. They need to just not know it. They need to know its qualities. They need to be able to imagine having that product, how wonderful that product would be for them. Because if I see a product and I think it's wonderful, but I won't, that I don't see myself with it, I won't put effort into it. The example I've given, when I was researching a car because I needed to buy a new car, and I was looking for cars within my budget. I was in Holland, and there was a huge billboard near the airport. There was a Rolls-Royce advertisement, the image of the car, and it was written in English. If you ask the price, it's not the car for you. If you ask the price, it's not the car for you. And I thought, there's so many cars that would have characteristics that I like, but they're not in my list of desires because I don't believe that I would be able to buy them. So as long as so that there is desire for something, so that we can put energy into getting it, we need to believe not only in the objective, but also in our ability to reach that objective. So that's why when they want to sell us something, often they say, with 2,500 comfortable installments, 100 euros a month for life, you can have this too. Oh, okay, 100 euros a month, I can do it with a monthly installment. So I need to recognize the importance and the possibility of something before I can want it. And this brings us to an important aspect, that as human beings, we don't do anything if not for 3 different types of stimulation. Everything we do based on these 3 things. By doing that, we think it's good for us. It brings pleasure, well-being, something positive for us, or because by doing that, I'm avoiding some kind of suffering, or because I believe that morally it's the right thing to do. So we have a moral reason, or we believe that we have some kind of benefit, or we want to avoid some damage, let's say. These are the 3 reasons that push us to do what we do. So how can I abandon laziness and develop effort? One thing is I need to get used to putting effort into things. Effort is a habit. This ability to be in front of a difficulty, putting energy in front of difficult situations, it's a habit. And so here we need to be careful to not follow the law of minimum effort and maximum comfort. We live within this law of minimum effort and maximum comfort. It holds up our society, our lives. So constantly we're trying to do things with more comfort and less fatigue. The trap is, if I don't get used to putting effort, to putting energy into difficulties and overcome them, when I will be in front of the inner paths, and there are no shortcuts there. Even though we try, maybe someone feels sad and they take a pill. That happens, no? Or a glass of something. Because one is looking for a way out so that one doesn't have to face oneself. So what happens is, if we get used to put effort into having constancy, that afterwards, naturally, naturally that will help us in other aspects of our lives. And then I also need a brainwashing of the importance of that thing, like advertising does. So an ad, is it enough to see it once, or do you have to see it again and again and again for it to move something inside? Once I asked myself, there was a kind of billboard somewhere. It was the same ad repeated like 20 times, like again and again and again. And I said, why? They were hammering you with this information. Little by little, it gets in. We need to use that to our benefit and do virtuous ads for ourselves. What do I need? I need to eat healthy. I need to eat healthy. I need to remember it as many times and in many ways as possible. I need to take good care of my sleep. I shouldn't eat that because it's bad for me. Need to remember in as many ways as possible. Make it so that information just repeats itself again and again. We put even an alarm on your phone, or some kind of sound on your phone. I mean, even these images here, they're a little bit like ads. Here we see Atisha, Lama Tsongkhapa, Buddha Shakyamuni, Kyabchen Chögyam Rinpoche. These main masters. They're like witnesses to say, I was able to do it, you can do it too. Testimonials. Like we see something, we see someone who's used a product or leaves, or or leaves a remark on the or their point of view regarding a product. Oh, I use this product and it worked for me. So these great masters are here to say they followed this path and it worked for them, it can work for you. So we need to use this to our benefit and not just stay and not just let the information go in and out without any kind of awareness. I've said it many times, sooner or later I'll do Buddhist advertising. We'll do it. So here it says abandon. Getting back to our text, it says put aside all doubt and hesitation and take delight in earnest practice. Abandon entirely lethargy, dullness, and laziness, and exert yourself with enthusiasm. Sundru in Tibetan. It's also translated as enthusiastic effort. The definition of enthusiastic effort, according to Shantideva, Sunka gelantrua. Sun is effort. Kang, what does that mean? What does force mean? Gelantrua, the joy in that which is virtuous. So enthusiastic effort is having joy in putting energy into what is virtuous, even if it's difficult. So it's interesting to see that something that is difficult is not necessarily unpleasant. You can work hard, and it's pleasurable too. I think it's all happened that you've had an object of desire, something you've wanted, and you're working hard to get that object of desire. It's hard, but it's still joyous because you know you're getting closer to your object of desire. So enthusiastic effort is this joy in putting effort and energy into what is virtuous. That's why it said the spiritual path is a path where there's hard work, but with joy. Denden Shishin. It says Dendang Shishing Payu Peyang Pu Go Nam Ta Droa. So with mindful recollection, vigilance, and conscientiousness, guard the doors of your senses at all times. Drempa and Sheshing. This and here and also the last one is Payu, conscientiousness, mindful recollections, vigil. So here, mindful recollection, conscientiousness is Payu. Payu is conscientiousness, yeah. So conscientiousness is this awareness of what we already know. For example, are we going to die or not? Is anyone here with a doubt about that? Is there anyone here that says, oh, I didn't know? We're going to die, right? But in your daily life, are you aware of your own mortality? Often not. This conscientiousness of our own mortality is lacking when I'm aware and I bring to light what I already know in my daily life or in that moment. Then I have conscientiousness, like our diet, for example. There are things that we eat and we know that they're not good for us, but we, let's say, forget. Then we're lacking conscientiousness in there. I know that I shouldn't eat sugar, but when I'm in front of a ice cream, that one doesn't even remember. You really forget it. There are things that you know them, but in that moment, there's no awareness. So Payu is this conscientiousness where we bring to the present moment the awareness of what we already know. Here we talk about the preciousness of this life, our own mortality. What is my life's objective? What are the things that are bad for me that I want to avoid? What are the things that are good for me that I want to cultivate? There are many, many things that are part of bringing to this present moment the memory, the awareness of what I know, but I often forget. So the other two, mindful recollection and vigilance, are also two important terms. More or less like this, just to understand what we're talking about here. Let's imagine that we're driving a car, we're walking, we're going somewhere. I think maybe the road from here to Milan. Maybe I've done many, many times. It can happen that as I'm going, at a certain point, I forget where I'm going. I see something nice by the road and I change direction. I go somewhere else. And then I realize I've gone somewhere else and I ask me, oh, where did I want to go? I wanted to go to Milan. Oh, how did I end up here? Because sometimes we start a way, a path, a road, and we forget where we're going. The other characteristic, so keeping that memory, the drempa in Tibetan, this mindful recollection, we're keeping contact with our objective. What am I doing? Where am I going? We keep contact. We don't forget our direction, our objective. Drempa. Sheshing, instead, I know I want to go to Milan, but as I'm driving, I'm not really paying attention to where I'm going. I haven't forgotten where I want to go, but I don't have any kind of attention to what I'm doing at the moment. So I want to go to Milan, but I end up somewhere else. I didn't forget that I want to go to Milan, but there at the crossroads, that goes the one that goes towards to Genova. I didn't read the signs and I ended up in Genova. I don't know if it's ever happened to you. For example, if you're driving and you needed to go somewhere, but then that you have to go somewhere that's different from the road that you take every day, and then instead you still know, you know where you want to go, but you're so used to taking that road, you end up taking that road because you're lacking this vigilance of what you were doing. So we start with what we want. I want to live this reality in which I find myself with harmony and respect and gratitude, with love, with patience. I want to cultivate those my own characteristics that that make me feel well more than trying to change the world. So I need to have conscientiousness, mindful recollection, and vigilance, because otherwise we just keep falling onto roads that we have already trodden, that we've already gone down. And these roads are roads of distractions, roads of jealousy, roads of anger. So instead, we need to keep contact with what we're doing, where we want to go, what are my objectives, and keep this. And in this way, we protect the doors of our senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I say? What am I touching? How do I use my contact with the world and how I think? As we said before, every interaction inevitably brings a transformation. So everything that I see transforms me. Everything that I listen to, everything I hear, everything I touch is constantly transforming me. So this training process, I need to be careful how I use my senses. Let's remember that the most widely used sense is the sense of our mind. And if we keep conscientiousness, vigilance, and this mindful recollection along this road, then that will help us stay on the road and use our senses well. Someone might say, but the mind is the most important. That maybe speech is superficial. If we're not able to direct with awareness, our speech will never be able to do it with our mind. So we start by having control of our body, this awareness of our body, then first awareness and then directing of our body to get to awareness and directing of our speech, to get to awareness and the directing our mind. And then after, with this awareness and directing of our mind, then it's no longer difficult, and one can recognize even the most subtle of thoughts and feelings, and they don't even need to manifest, and one can give the right direction. You know, you don't need to become totally overwhelmed by that thought, by that feeling. And this is how we protect our the doors of our senses. So here it says, Nitsuntum. So here it says, bloop, 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 bloop. Again and again, thrice by day and by night, examine the continuum of your mind. 3 times by the day and 3 by night, because there are 6 times a day there's a change in energy. So in this energetic time changes, we say, we can lose our motivation or lose control of our path, and we need to just be more careful. There's dawn and noon and dusk and midnight. There are these moments where there is this change of energy, and so we need to also be aware of our breathing, because if the best way to see these changes is to see the change in our breathing. Yesterday we touched on this. Let's pick it up again. So when we breathe from our nostrils, it's hardly ever the same from the left and the right nostril. if you close a nostril now and breathe in, and then you do it in the other side. So try. Is it the same or different? Is one nostril a little bit more closed than the other? It's different, right? And then in another time of the day, it'll be different. So now, for example, for myself, I breathe less from the left nostril, and and um, I I breathe better from the right. This morning when we did the 9-round breathing exercise, it was the opposite. So when we breathe from our right nostril, we're activating the left side of our brain. We're activating the part that's more active, more conceptual, more logical. One wakes up more. So there's a technique, for example, if there's a moment where you need to have a certain mental clarity that's more cognitive, or just be more awake, more attentive. So close your left nostril and just for a bit breathe from your right side deeply. That will activate the other side of the brain. So the left side instead activates the right side of the brain, the part that has to do with our intuition, creativity. We calm instead of activate. So if we see that mental, very quick, and we want to calm down a little bit, we need to get to a state of creativity and reflection and be less conceptual, then we close. So we close our right nostril and we breathe from our left. Another technique that we can do is a little more subtle, but works as well. Someone asked me as well. Today we did the 9-round breathing exercise yesterday and today. I imagine that is there anyone here who has never been given the explanation of the 9-round breathing exercise? Okay, a few people. When we do this breathing, you see that we do like this, so, and then we put one hand under our armpit. Why? It's said that when we put pressure under our armpit, this naturally diminishes the airflow on that side. So you need a little bit more awareness. So you sit down, you breathe without closing any nostril. I mean, just you can see which side where more air comes out. So if you want to slow the airflow where there's more airflow, then you can put some pressure under your armpit on that side. I think there's a practice called yoga danda in yoga. There's this. It's a prop. It's a kind of stand with a half moon. So you can use it to rest your arm, or when you do these techniques to balance your breathing, you put it under your armpit to block the airflow from one side or another. So when we do the 9-round breathing exercise, we make the Vajra fist and we put our hand under our armpit to slow down the airflow from that side. So we inhale from one side and we exhale from the other, and then we do the same thing from the other side. Later, I'll give you the full explanation of the 9-round breathing exercise. Now it's just to remind you that when we breathe, depending on the side from which nostril we breathe in, it changes which side of our brain we activate. And when we learn how to do this, we can do it with awareness. So if we want to reflect more, We want more intuition. So we're going to breathe more from our left side by blocking our right nostril. If we need to do something more practical, pragmatic, we need to do some accounting, then we will close our right nostril and breathe from our left, because one activates the parasympathetic nervous system and the other one the sympathetic nervous system, and there's a whole world to explain here. And one thing, for example, I saw that in the West, a few years ago, in a in a psychiatric hospital, there was research done with patients who had schizophrenia, and they studied these patients. They studied the breathing of these schizophrenic patients, and they saw that that the right nostril was almost always blocked, and and from the left, breathing from the left, that actually this was a study done on one psychiatric patient, and so this patient was always breathing from the left, and they thought, well, what would happen if we inverted that? I mean, so this patient, she had a lot of psychotic episodes of, so they blocked the left, and they had her breathe from her right, and her hallucinations diminished tremendously simply by changing her breathing pattern. Even better than in this study, they said better than a lot of pharmaceuticals. So just the way that we breathe influences our entire system. So we need to create the space to observe ourselves, to understand, as Buddha said, I am my own enemy, I am my own protector. Understand that with our breathing well, we can do so much for our psychophysical well-being. So we bring this awareness in the way that we breathe, observe how we're breathing, feel, ask yourself what you need in that moment. It's not that one is the right side and left side. It's not that one is good and one is bad. I mean, ideally they're balanced, but what do you need at that moment? And then little by little we can experiment and get to know better. It's important to have our own experience. Stimulate one side and see if that changes anything. Because once we experience something, that's worth a lot more than what someone has just told us. And so I invite you to do this experience, to have this experience. So, something important here. I'm more and more convinced, I'm totally convinced, and it's just clearer and clearer to me how the body and the mind are, they go in the same directions. They're like two manifestations of the same reality, and we cannot try to separate them or divide them into two things, because what happens in the body happens in the mind inevitably. Every thought, every emotion has an effect inevitably on the body as well. So finding balance in our life is not only mental or only physical. And I wanted to give emphasis these days, generally speaking, is our breathing, because something that's interesting is that when we breathe with awareness, first of all, we start paying attention to ourselves within, and that already helps. And if we're able to learn just basic things about breathing, I'm not I'm not saying to become pranayama experts. I'm talking about doing simple things that can help us so much. For example, when we breathe, mostly we can have a more abdominal breathing, or we can breathe higher up in our chest, in this thoracic cage. Normally, the breathing in our chest is shorter, and the one in our belly is deeper. When you breathe from your chest high up with a short breath, one becomes faster. One speeds up one's mind and body. So when you breathe more deeply, you calm your system and you slow down. In the lifestyle that we have, generally speaking, which one do we need more? Do we need to calm and slow down, or do we need to activate and speed up? We're too activated. We're constantly activated on so many levels. We need to activate. We need to calm down. We need to work on the other side. And so we need a deeper, more abdominal breath. So even just learning how to breathe from our abdomen and bring that into our daily life while I'm at work, when I'm watching TV or eating, regardless what I'm doing, doing that, just that, has an enormous positive effect on the quality of our lives. Then, if we breathe correctly, more deeply, I mean, there are many studies. I was talking to Dr. Elkanah, who was doing the conference yesterday. She was saying that there's a breathing technique that she learned. It's 4-7-8. You inhale in 4. You inhale 4, you hold 7, and you exhale in 8. You do it for 10 minutes. They've done many studies on it, and she'll need to explain it better to you. And they saw that with these studies, that based on the Indian tradition, it corresponds. It corresponds to, it has the same effect as taking some high blood pressure medicine. So there are many patients have this prescription 4-7-8. But there are things that we need to experience for ourselves these days. In the morning and then in the afternoon, we'll do some work on breathing. Obviously, everyone has a different habit. We can't expect everyone to breathe in the same way. So I want to explain a little bit the way to do, and then each one needs to respect his own way, his own limit, because we should never force. Absolutely not. If I say inhale in 4 and hold in 8, and then after holding in 8, you feel like you're suffocating or drowning. No. If you inhale in 4, hold, you're not able to hold in 8, you hold 6, hold a 4, hold 5, hold what is comfortable. And when I hold, I bring the energy under my navel. I imagine that I'm holding the air under my navel. And then I exhale, ideally, the double of what the inhale was. And if it's too hard, a little bit less. And then we hold the air again, the same length of time as the inhale. There are different techniques. This is one that works well. It's quite general, where I inhale to one length of time. I hold for the double amount of time, for twice as long. I exhale for that same twice amount of time, and then I hold again for the same amount of time as the inhale. And then we can generate more awareness to breathe with just more awareness, and we can get to having awareness of this yogic breathing. So where I breathe, first I inhale the air into my belly, the lower part of my body, and then in as I'm breathing in with one breath, I fill up my lungs and my upper body. And then when I exhale from my upper body, and then finally with my abdomen to the point of contracting my muscles. So, and then we can count. So first we count inhale, exhale, and then we add the holding. But that depends on everyone's habit. I mean, if you already have this familiarity, you can go right away to the holding of the breath. So first we inhale 4, then we exhale 4, then we inhale 4, we exhale 8, and then we can add afterwards the holding of the air. At the beginning we hold just a little bit, just as much as our inhale, and then little by little we double it until we're able to do it comfortably, where we inhale 4, we exhale 8, we inhale 4, we hold 8, we exhale 8, and then we hold for 4. Is that clear? When this becomes comfortable and fine, then we can add. We inhale 5, we hold 10, we exhale 10, and then we hold 5. When that is comfortable and you're able to do it well, then we inhale 6, hold 12, exhale 12, and we hold for 6. Until we can get up possibly to inhaling 8, holding 16, exhaling 16, and holding 8. And then you can go on. There are techniques where you inhale 20, you hold for 40, exhale 40, and hold in 20. But already 8 and 16 is solid number. It's impossible without it's. So we shouldn't be in a hurry, we shouldn't be in a hurry where, you inhale, try to get to 12 or 16 right away, and already at 10, you feel like you're about to explode. No, little by little, we work on, we expand our abilities. And the more we're able to breathe more slowly and inhale more air and exhale more air and hold in between, this helps us get to better levels of concentration. It helps our health in so many ways. I read that among the different studies that have been done that actually correspond to the ancient Vedic tradition or Buddhist tradition, they looked at the parameters that can define longevity. And one of the clearest parameters to define longevity is our ability to breathe. The more air that someone can breathe in and breathe out, and the deeper one's breathing is, the longer that person's life is. If you look in Tantra tradition or Hindu tradition or other Buddhist traditions, it says that life depends on how you breathe. The slower you breathe, the longer you'll live. In the ancient texts, it says that a normal person breathes 21,000 times a day. In modern studies, they say about 25,000 a day. If you're able to breathe more slowly, take in more oxygen, and you increase your respiratory functions, then it's said said both by ancient texts and modern research, this is something that can actually lengthen your life and your quality of life and better the quality of life. And it also helps also for your concentration, for your meditation, to better your intuition, etc. So my thought is, anyway, we breathe. We all breathe. We can do it better, no? If we're able to breathe with more awareness, little by little, that brings us an enormous benefit. Someone might say, Lama, I'm not able, I'm blocked here, my breathing is short, I'm not able to take a deeper breath. Okay, little by little. It's a muscle. The diaphragm is a muscle. It's a question of habit. It's little by little. The more you do it, the more gradually it will become natural. Our body has a beautiful characteristic, which is the more you use one characteristic, the more that characteristic develops. For example, it's in this book on breathing that I was reading, it said that when you talk about breathing from the nose, people who have like nighttime apnea, nocturnal apnea, or people who snore, a technique to diminish it is to force the person to breathe from the nose. And it's not possible, it's not possible. The technique is the following: take some masking tape and you put it over the mouth. This researcher tried everything. Obviously, you just put a little piece of you put a little bit of scotch, a little bit of tape between your lips. So that also, if you really have to say something, you can do it from the sides of your mouth, and it won't hurt your skin. But apparently, with this technique, this nocturnal apnea diminished 80% with those who are using it. I mean, we're not talking about anything too scientifically sophisticated, but our body adapts to so many things. We need to help it. The body and the mind, the system, we need to help it to adapt to what's healthy, because we've familiarized it too much with what is unhealthy. And among this, there's this breathing with awareness. So we try to breathe from our abdomen. Wear comfortable clothes for that, because if we have always clothes that are too tight around our waist, then we'll be breathing. We'll be forced to breathe from the upper part of our body, and that will speed up our thoughts and give us more anxiety. So little by little. So if we have more awareness we breathe in, little by little, we hold that air. I'm able, little by little at the beginning, and then we increase that. This has a great benefit physically and also mentally, and also a spiritual benefit, because to have more awareness, more intuition, to better our concentration, breathing better helps. So today at 3 o'clock, we will do the first part of the practice, breathing. I will guide you. I will guide you, bringing the breath to 4-8-8-4. But I ask everyone to not force themselves. I mean, you can stay 4-4-4, 4-4-4-4, and little by little you can increase the holding or increase the exhale. If you feel that you're gasping for air, then you need to shorten the time. Once it becomes natural, then then you can increase it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least, 10 cycles of breathing on just a short amount of time. Because it's a question of muscle strength, and there's a mental component too. And the more we do it, little by little, but I beg you not to force yourself. I'll give you general indications, but then those who want to do it longer can do it longer because they're more used to it, or you do it shorter, you do less. What's important is that everyone needs to walk according to the length of his own legs without trying to force anything. And because there's a very basic breathing technique. There's no negative side effect, but there are techniques. There are breathing techniques that, if not done well, that can actually generate anxiety. So we need to really be gentle with ourselves, and little by little, like everything. What's important is constancy. If you breathe with awareness and you do these 10, 15 minutes, a half an hour in the morning and at night, already you'll see that in 1 week there'll be a huge change. But after a week, you stop doing doing it, then you'll lose it all. You need to maintain this habit. By maintaining this habit, this constancy, that will bring tremendous change and benefit. This afternoon, we'll also explain the 9-round breathing exercise before doing it. So those who have never had the explanation can have can see, and those who know it, you can refresh. The 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 key here that I want to just underline once again, the key about breathing, the breathing correctly is necessary for what we need to for all of this. We need faith in ourselves. We need faith in ourselves that we'll be able to first of all, that it's good for me and that I'm able. And the more we're able to see that we have the resources to be well, and that we just need to learn how to use them well, then we'll stop victimizing ourselves. We'll be able to take the reins of our lives in our own hands and for our own benefit. So that's it for this morning. Is what I wanted to see. So the verse says, put aside all doubt and hesitation and take delight in earnest practice. Abandon entirely lethargy, dullness, and laziness, and exert yourself constantly with enthusiastic effort, with mindful recollection, vigilance, and conscientiousness. Guide the doors of your senses at all times. Again and again, 3 times by day and by night, examine the continuum of your mind, which means first we have an awareness of our body and then awareness of our speech to then get to the awareness of our own minds. Last thing, awareness means I see. And I see so that I can direct. If I cannot see, then I'm not able to give a direction. Maybe in the first steps we can see, but we don't have the tools to give the right direction. People at the beginning, maybe they come to me and say, Lama, it's even worse now because now I see an unhealthy dynamic arise, but I'm not able to stop it. But if that happens, that means that we're practicing this first step, this first level, which is about awareness. And once we're practicing that, then we can get to the second one, which is where we're able to actually give a direction to something. So we go from the awareness of body, then speech, and then mind. And then we'll talk more about this in these days. And now it's time for lunch, and we'll come back here at 3 o'clock.
Losan tempe drume sasumgi drove munsela taktu ne gyurchi kewa kuntu yanda lamadan dralme cheki pela longche chin sadan lamge yente rabzone dorje change kopan yurtob Sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin Ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumke chingilo kuncho sumke ngodrubotsol kuncho sumke trashi shon
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle all the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Grazie a tutti.
Thank you, everyone. Now, at 3 o'clock, we're going to go to the same place as yesterday, and then tomorrow we'll go somewhere else. There's another place I like to go, but today, after our meeting, I need to go find a more comfortable path to. So today we'll meet here at 3 o'clock and 3:15 there. We'll go to that same place. So instead, this is important. Those who want to go to the river, we have people who know. The only thing is, the two places are very beautiful to have for a quick dip. I don't think that more than 20 people can get there. So I like to make two groups, and then we can alternate. So Jean knows the place well. So maybe around 2 o'clock, if you like to take a swim, maybe 2 o'clock, 2:15, you can meet here in front of the temple. One is 5 minutes walk from here. The other one is about 10 minutes, and they can show you the path. It's one of the most beautiful experiences. I mean, I wouldn't do it in the winter time, but taking a swim in the river here, and I think Matteo should come as well. So we'll have two people showing these two different places. Okay, have a good lunch. I'll see you at 3 o'clock.